Welcome to Sex and the Solo Girl. Join your host, her inner circle, and expert guests weekly for chats about dating, secure attachment, the solo lifestyle, doing relationships differently, and of course, sex. And here's your host, Janice Formicella.
The Erotic Blueprints. I don't know about you, my listeners, but I really think that they are having a moment. I've been seeing more on social media about this concept. It's something that kind of lights me up, partially because I've seen a lot of women, particularly, really change their lives by discovering more about their own sexuality. So, as one of my first episodes on the new platform, I wanted to dive into this. So, I am lucky enough to have in my network a woman by the name of Gal Gallucci. I will put all of her information in the show notes because we both have very, very sexy Italian last names. So don't worry if you can't spell it. And welcome. I'm so excited to have you as my first guest in the new podcast here. Yes, I have co-hosts who come on all of the time, but not really a guest who I'm interviewing. So I'm honored to have you and also excited to dive into this topic. Hi.
Hi, Janice. Oh, so beautiful. Yeah, I'm excited. I didn't realize that I was your first guest, so
Yeah.
exciting for me.
When I was putting together the topics that I most wanted to dive into on the new platform, Sex and the Solo Girl, I have announced it by now. Erotic Blueprints was one of the first things that I came up with. So we have a friend in common, Steve Oxnard, who's actually been on the podcast a few times as well. Breakups, broken hearts, and moving on. A good friend, someone who I really look up to, a bit of a mentor. He introduced us, and so I decided to go with it. The Erotic Blueprints as one of my first 5 episodes.
Well, thank you for having me here, Janice.
You're so welcome. It's such a great connection. So first of all, what is your job title? How do you, identify professionally? And before we get started, let my listeners know where they can connect with you.
Well, you have my direct contact information and you have my consent to share that with your listeners.
All right. And once again, everyone, her email will be in the show notes. The website will be in the show notes. Please go connect with her. And how do you work with people?
Yeah, well, I work in so many different capacities. I work with singles, I work with couples. I love offering a lot of support to couples in a prenatal and a postpartum period. I really love supporting couples once, children, if there are children in their household, and through that transition on not only a physiological, spiritual, and psychological level, answering the question, like, how do we keep the fires or the embers burning? Like, how do we nurture connection and intimacy when sex is off the table and healing is taking place, and that's what takes precedence, or we're depleted and, we're crossing ships and we're busy people.
From what I gathered based on what you said, the Erotic Blueprints is one area where couples can stay connected, learn more about their intimacy no matter what's going on in their relationship. And so let's just answer the question up front. What are the Erotic Blueprints?
Yeah, the Erotic Blueprints is this massive and beautiful body of work that was created by a woman named Jaya. And Jaya actually had been on faculty with sexological body work with the Institute of Somatic Sexology, I believe out of Australia. She's a brilliant, world-renowned author and educator. She created this body of work, and I certified in 2020 during the pandemic. It was a really interesting time to bring this work into the world without being able to actually work in person or on the body. It was a really interesting time, but it proved to be such an important and valuable time for everybody who was kind of struggling with, like, oh my gosh, now we're under the same roof, 24 hours a day. How are we going to, you know.
Oh, I see. So there was an opportunity for couples and individuals to perhaps take this as they were learning about it into the world and kind of use the opportunity of being inside to explore it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
cool. I hadn't thought of it that way. Ooh.
I want to say probably the most valuable thing about this work is whether you're solo or partnered, it it matters. It matters that you cultivate a relationship with yourself, your body, your knowing, your yes, your no. And then if you decide you want to be partnered, there's a whole blueprint, your own, and your lover's dynamic that you get to play in with a lot of creativity.
Oh, this is really cool. And I'm actually kind of familiar with a lot of the profiles. And once you learn this, yeah, you can have a lot of fun. But let's get just a little deeper. How, why is this important for someone who might find themselves single right now? Besides looking forward to what if I do want to date again? What if you're just kind of happy being single and this kind of turns you on? Why might someone who's single really dive into this?
Oh,
Because I
yeah.
was
And
actually single when I heard about it, and I was just completely lit up and started exploring it, took the test, and I know what it did for me, but I'd like to hear from you.
well, I would love for you to tell me, like maybe if you could in one sentence, what it did for you as a single when you discovered the blueprints.
Yes, for sure. So, first of all, it was definitely a several aha moments for me because I am a sensual and I felt really in tune and very validated by the way that I live my life. And there was lots of, like I said, aha moments. I'm very, very into aesthetics. I'm very, very into textures, really into the way I dress, the music I listen to. I'm definitely someone who believes that there's possibility for pleasure and desire in every moment. I have often for several years said that I live a desire-led life. So
Mm.
besides all of that and kind of diving into how that connected with my sexual preferences, I was definitely on a journey of self pleasure and integrating pleasure into my life, as I said, regardless of a partner. When I first learned about the erotic blueprints, I really wasn't even interested in dating. I have a relationship now that means a lot to me, but it wasn't really something on my radar. And I just found that the more I learned about the sensual blueprint, I was just simply excited about my identity and just generally excited about connecting with people, but also how can I bring more pleasure into my life through self pleasure any time of the day. I got really into audio erotica after I learned about my blueprint, and I guess I would just say that it just added a different dimension into what was already a pretty juicy single life.
Mhm. Gosh, thank you so much for answering that question. And it's really beautiful. I heard you use the word validate a couple of times.
Mm.
And I definitely think that that's one of the most valuable things about beginning to learn this language, because ultimately that's what it is. It's a language. It's like, if you bought a plot of land and hired a general contractor and you just said, I have this idea that I know that I want an open floor plan. I know that here's some elements that I really like, but you didn't have a blueprint to offer the contractor. He might be able to help you realize the vision to some extent. Like there's a possibility it could be, you might get some of what you want. But imagine you hand him a blueprint with very, very specific details and qualities throughout every square inch of the house. That's
Oh,
in
I'm getting hot right now.
I think first and foremost, why it's valuable for a solo, for someone who's single, is because it's a real opportunity and an invitation for you to cultivate a relationship with yourself.
Mhm. And you can kind of, it's not just about the bedroom.
Have sex is how you live your life.
Yes, that is exactly what I was going to say. And I do feel anybody who knows me, who I've talked to about this said, "Oh wow, like yes, that's definitely you." But I am also someone who the way that I live is very much seen with the people I interact with how I decorate, how I dress, like I said, the music, my morning routine, all of these things. And I would definitely say that Sensual describes all of it. And I guess also it gave me permission to really embrace that side of me. All
Mhm.
right. So everybody is hearing me say that I am quote unquote sensual. So what are the different types or what are the different erotic blueprints? There's six, I believe.
There's five.
Okay, there's five erotic blueprints. So what are they? Let's get into the juicy stuff.
Yeah, so the five erotic blueprints, and there's nothing hierarchical, which is also
All right, good
really
point.
important, okay? But the five erotic blueprints are the energetic, the sensual, the sexual,
Oh my.
the kink, which has two branches, sensate kink
Okay.
and psychological kink, and then the shapeshifter. So those are the five erotic blueprints. Now, each of those blueprints have lots of rich characteristics, an essence, if you will,
Ooh, okay.
along with a superpower and a shadow.
Okay.
In addition to that, you have five stages, which are rest, healing, curious, adventure, and transformation.
I did not know that. It has been a little while since I got my results in red. That doesn't sound familiar to me at all. So I think that that is where I would like to start is these stages. And then I would like to hear just a tiny bit more about the essence of each. So let's go into this. What is the stages thing?
Sure. So the stages, and again, really important to state that there's nothing hierarchical about them, but it's really beautiful to like integrate that in your understanding and even your identity, identifying as a sensual, but you can say, oh, okay, I'm very much dominant as a sensual. I'm in this stage. And so let's say that rest is a stage that it can be someone who is celibate and like wants to be like
Oh, okay.
I am resting, I'm taking a break, I'm actually not sexually active at this time. Maybe it's post a breakup. Maybe it's, it's part of like, I'm going to hit pause for whatever reason that is. It's a pause, it's a rest. Then you've got healing. It could be one example could be that you've given birth and your pelvis is healing, your vulva is healing, or maybe you were in a car accident, or maybe you're emotionally healing. Again, this could be post divorce, post a breakup.
Mm.
You're either emotionally or physiologically healing, or maybe both. Then there's curious. And curious might be, what a lot of your listeners actually, it could potentially be a good part of your audience, which is, I am interested. I have some books on my nightstand and I am taking some different workshops. I'm curious about what information and resources are available to me in this area that I'm maybe wanting to expand into. And then you have adventure. And adventure
Nice.
is, hey, I've done some resting, I've done some healing, I've been curious, but some of those workshops and some of those books I've been reading, well, now I am putting it into play. I am sexually active, I am adventuring, and I'm embodying some of these practices. Transformation
Oh,
is uh, the final of the stages. And it is, when I feel into transformation, it's very much has like a tantra-like quality to it. It's a desire to have really a transcendent experience during sex. It is out of the body experience, seeing the divine, whatever language you want to put on it. It is, I want to engage with sex as a spiritual practice. I want it to be transcendent. I want to treat it as an altered state of consciousness.
I feel a little emotional because I can actually pinpoint all of these stages for myself. Definitely in the transformation, I'm in, yes, definitely a sexual union with someone. And when it comes to rest, I don't say this very often, but I took 4 years off of sex at one point to discover myself, to learn about my patterns, to figure out why all of my relationships kind of ended in this really chaotic way. And I have gone through each of these. This is just blowing my mind right now. What I want to know is you indicated that a person's erotic blueprint type informs how they go about these? Or is this what everyone goes through?
What I want to say is that I would caution,
Okay.
I would caution anybody to like over-identify
Okay.
with even any of the blueprints or the stages, knowing that because nothing is hierarchical within this model,
Okay.
that we have the capacity, hopefully, the real, I think, healthful way to engage with this body of work and with our embodiment practices is exploring what's erotically possible and moving, being really malleable through the stages. And what's beautiful is that you, like you just said, wow, I can look back and I can remember when I was in rest. And then there was this other season when I was really curious. And now I'm in this sexual union and maybe we've been adventurous for a while, but now I'm really in transformation, and that's how I'm engaging with it. So again, this blueprint and this scaffolding just gives you this incredible way of going, oh yeah, now it makes sense. This is where I'm at now, and this is where I'm headed. And the same thing with the blueprints. So you are absolutely dominant sensual. My most favorite homework assignment when I was in the coaching program was being asked to sit on a park bench and watch people and how they interacted, or how they dressed and how they moved. And I literally have this it's like the lens of like a social scientist, really. And I am, because my background, I'm actually an anthropologist, but
Look at her. My God.
I can sit down like on a park bench or in a Zoom room like with you, and in a few minutes I'm like, oh, I can tell by the way, the color of your lipstick and the way you wear your hair and the flowers, on this beautiful backdrop that is like rich with texture and beauty, that I'm like, oh, she's such a sensual, like your shoulder, like the romanticism.
Oh, yeah. I'm getting chills. Oh, and I want to learn so much more about this. When it comes to identifying people sitting from a park bench, and also just as a side note, I will link in the show notes 2 different quizzes that you can take so that you can really learn this about yourself. But I would love to go through each of the types and maybe say one bit of essence or one standout quality with each of them. I think it'll get people really curious and the wheels turning to go and learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. So the energetic, we'll start there. The energetic is an individual who, first of all, I want to say the superpower of the energetic can be feeling like a full body orgasm looking at the sunset.
Ooh.
The way that ripples in a body of water might take shape and move. Like the energetic has the superpower of feeling the energy in a space. The energetic can be someone who gets super turned on just by an eye gaze with, breath and spaciousness and longing and anticipation. Like all of that is foreplay for an energetic.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, that's beautiful as well. And also, yeah, I guess I can relate to being turned on by nature, but not so much the eye gazing. Lovely. Okay.
And the nervous system of the energetic is so highly attuned that they can short circuit really easy. So if you come in too fast with an energetic, they can shut down. And so that's important to know, in the sense, not only to know about yourself if you're an energetic, but if you're in relationship with an energetic, and every time you approach that individual because you desire them and you can't wait to maybe put your hands all over them and you feel them resist, you might begin to carry a narrative that they might not be attracted to you, or you're doing something wrong, like what's going on? When really, if you learn, oh, I just need to actually come in a little slower.
Okay.
Maybe she or he wants an eye gaze, maybe a little bit of breath on the back of their neck, or on, or an off the body touch. There you have it. It's like a real quality of being able to dispel a myth or a really painful narrative just by learning, like, oh, this is actually what you need, or this is what I need, and I can ask for it. So that's the energetic.
I also read that energetics can have orgasm without physical touch from another person sometimes. I find that
Absolutely.
fascinating. I mean, I can't, again, say that I could really relate to that, but wow, but makes sense.
Yeah,
So
there's a
also, if anyone out there has had an orgasm that way, please be in touch. I'm very curious.
I'm working with a client right now. We had our first session last week. This is a woman in her mid 60s. And she said to me, I'm just so concerned because my body isn't responding to touch the way that it used to. And I said, oh, well, have you asked your body what kind of touch it might want right now? And she was like, no, I don't, that thought never entered my mind. And I led her through a somatic exercise and an exploration of the different qualities of touch associated with each of the blueprints. And it was the energetic touch where she could sense herself like an arm length away from her body, and she could feel electricity and vibration from there.
Ooh.
And so I was like, okay, so now that you know, when you have this information, when your lover steps into the room, maybe I want you to play with that. I want you to play with maybe even having him put a blindfold on you, and you are building the anticipation of where he might be in the space and where you can feel him and sense him and see how your body responds to that. And she said it was the most orgasmic she's felt in like 25 years.
Ooh, again, chills. That sounds like a really beautiful exercise and also nice work as a coach. Ooh, energetic. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, go on. What's the next type? What more do you have to share? This is so juicy.
The sensual, which and is resonant with you. The sensual we call very much like the artisan in the bedroom. The sensual is going to be invested in the beauty of the space. Making love might even be the language that they like to use. As I'm saying this, I'm like, wow, there's language associated and touch associated with each of these blueprints too. But
Yeah.
it's so massive that I'm trying to really keep it
Well,
summarized.
I appreciate that. And everybody, yes, there's so much to know about this. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I hope this gets everyone really turned on and curious. And also I have the biggest smile on my face right now because I'm just like, this is so me. If you saw my bedroom, I mean, it is set up to allow easily for sensual things to take place, even if it's just me going to bed.
Beautiful. Yep. The sensual, the root word of senses, like your senses need to be ignited. You probably want something beautiful to look at, or everything's beautiful to look at. Maybe you want candles lit for the ambiance, and they maybe an oil is being diffused as well. Like, all of your senses are begging to be awakened and ignited. And the touch of the sensual is like massage, like contouring massage touch, French kiss, scrumptious, yummy, lots of tongue, lots of lips, lots of touch. Foreplay for a sensual can literally be a day at the spa, just just getting loved up and getting nurtured, and being in a beautiful environment. The superpower of the sensual is the artistry. It is you have made your bedroom a ritual space, essentially.
Yes. I think almost every time my partner comes over, there is a period where I am just preparing the space, and I see him all the time.
But the shadow of the sensual is that we can get into our heads really easily and leave the body. The body kind of that disconnect can happen really easily. And I'll give you an example, which is you could be in a super like steamy makeout session with your lover, and a dog across the street starts to bark, and suddenly so distracted because that dog is like killing the vibe.
Interrupts what I've created.
Yeah. Like it's just a violation to this artistry, that your canvas essentially. And suddenly you're so distracted by the dog barking outside that your lover has no idea what just happened and why you like energetically kind of left the space, and might feel really abandoned by you. And so that, when you learn like, okay, I'm easily distracted, maybe the fan's on too high, maybe that next song isn't quite doing it for me on the playlist. Like, it could be a number of things that get us out of the moment and into our heads. To ask your lover, or to be aware of that, and to say to your lover, like, okay, I know that I get distracted really easily. This is not going to be about you and I and our dynamic or anything you're doing wrong. But if you notice that, maybe just stop and like put your hand on my sternum. Maybe just look me in the eye, or maybe tell me I smell really good. Tell me, do something that can help bring me back into my body.
Back. Thank you so much for sharing that.
With the artistry of their body, their curvature. Like, I don't know. I went to the gym this afternoon. My man just walked through the door. I haven't had a chance to take a shower or a bath. I don't know if I'm going to want him to go down on me until.
Oh my God, this is crazy. My partner comes over really early in the morning, and sometimes even if I kind of know I might still be asleep, I will get up at like 6 and shower and make myself smell good, shave, and then go back to bed. And it's not really an insecurity thing. I just want to be touched that way, and also feel that he should get that when he comes over in the morning.
There you go.
Oh, wow. This is,
You're
wow,
right.
I love this.
Maybe it's not necessarily an insecurity. It's a standard.
Oh, yes. That is a great way to put it.
So beautiful, and like so disciplined. You're like,
oh yeah, very. Oh man. So energetic, sensual, and I think I'm gonna have bruises on my face from smiling so much. And then I believe that you said sexual.
Yeah, and the sexual is like what we think of when we think of sex. It's what's been portrayed in societal norms. It's what we think of when we think of sex. We think of naked bodies. We think of porn. We think of penetration instantly. There's these qualities of the sexual. The superpower of the sexual is a super high sex drive. That is just
Oh
like
yeah.
0 to 60. Hell yeah. I'm not worried about, I'm not sensing everything in the room like the energetic. I'm not preoccupied with the ambiance like the sensual. I just
Oh.
really love sex and I want to get it on.
Hell yeah, sexuals. Okay.
Exactly. And I'm so glad that you just said that because the sexual really needs to be applauded. They
Absolutely.
oftentimes, like the shadow is that they may feel like people perceive them as lacking depth for their high sex drive and their desire and not being preoccupied with all the other things. And when you feed the sexual and you have sex with the sexual, nothing makes them happier. It's like food and water for everybody is like sex for the sexual. Like they're just the happiest people in the world after they have sex.
Huh.
And
Okay.
the shadow, again, with the sexual is maybe a misconception that they might lack depth, and that if they're starved and they're not having sex, there's something we say is like a horny rage where they're just frustrated. They're like, this, why is this so hard? I just want to have sex. It's so fun and so good.
Right. I can think of someone so quickly that that this describes. And she is badass, let me say that.
Awesome. And for women in particular, we're looking at societal norms for a second with the sexual.
Sure.
Women were and continue to be, even though I'm feeling this paradigm shift in our collective consciousness, shamed for liking sex, like slut shamed. Like, oh, really? You just have sex because you like to? Like, that's not okay. That's really naughty. You're a slut. You're behaving like a slut. Sex.
Yeah, or like, damn.
So when I hear women say like, "Oh hell yeah, I had sex last night just because I fucking wanted to," I'm just like, "Yeah, girl, like amazing. I so celebrate that you had sex because you like having sex."
So, energetic, sensual, sexual, kink. Yay! Let's talk about kinky.
Do you remember the two branches?
There was sensory, right?
Sensate.
Sensate, and I don't recall the second one.
Psychological.
Psychological. Ooh, and I can assume a little about each one. Oh wow. When I first learned about the erotic blueprints, there was something about this one in particular that stood out to me. So yeah, and I don't know. I think in my mind, there's just so much more that you have to either pile on or take on or consider or add to your sexual experience if you consider yourself, generally kinky. And in my mind, I didn't consider it to be a part of someone's essence. And so that's what I'm really curious to hear from you about.
Mhm. Wow. So the kink, I want to say that for a majority of clients that I've worked with and friends that I speak with about the blueprints, that kink stirs up, for better or for worse, a lot in individuals, but mostly curiosity and mystery.
Okay.
And kink, you could hang out in this playground, we'll use that language, in this realm, and it's limitless. It is limitless in terms. Kink essentially is like whatever you think is taboo and you're participating in. What is really most healing for the kink is acceptance.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I hope that we're getting there, it seems, at least in my communities.
Yeah. And, a superpower of the kink is kind of like endless creativity. a lot of imaginative play and creativity, whether that is expressed through sensate kink, which is basically anything that you're adding for sensory play to the body. And maybe it's, maybe it's slap, maybe
some
it's
impact. I'm really into impact.
yeah. Yeah, I love impact too. It could be, shibari, it could be the art of rope tying, it could be anything and everything imaginable. It could be bondage, it could be constriction, it could be, anything and everything you could possibly imagine, being tied up, handcuffs, collars.
Oh, okay.
Nothing for me, I'll go ahead and share this. Like, nothing for me is, there's nothing hotter than going to a hardware store, in my opinion.
Oh my goodness, look at you.
And it's the funniest thing in the world, because so many of like the names for different tools and stuff just have the, like, it's just, it kind of entices the psychological kink in me. But
can you give one example?
I remember going and buying like this chain that was like 35 pounds or so. And I was like, God, no, I would not want to be like chained to the bed frame or something like that. But the weight of this on my chest and just feeling it drape on my neck just added enough constriction and enough kind of weight that I felt grounded and aroused by just having this chain resting on my body.
That's a yes for me. I have to say that would be a green light. That sounds hot. Ooh, okay.
So, I bring that up because really it could be a super fun invitation, like for your listeners. Go to a hardware store, check out some of the labels, get curious about what textures might I like? What ways could I use some of these tools and gadgets, and check out some of the hot men who are shopping in there?
That's also a yes for me.
And then hell, go down to the dollar store and do like every shopping excursion, maybe be in the curiosity of like, what could I bring in for solo pleasure play or partnered sex? Like, what could I bring in? Let's make it fun. Keep it fun and interesting.
What an adventure. Okay, sensate. I'm really turned on by this chain thing. And then I am doing it. Okay. Or I will have someone do it for me is really what I'd prefer. And then so sensate and psychological.
Psychological is, if I had to identify personally with any of the blueprints that I'm dominant in, it would be psychological kink.
I would say the opposite. This is so cool. Because you relate to this and this is your type. Tell us everything, Gal.
Well, psychological kink it's someone, like myself. I'm a single mom. I run my own business. I wear so many hats in a day, satisfy so many roles. And I think so many of your listeners, we as modern women have to show up, and especially if we're ambitious and we have important work that we're doing, we've got a lot on our plate, right? And the psychological kink's nervous system simply is at rest and able to receive, perhaps in role play, dominant or submissive, or myself, I'm a switch. I like to switch between these.
Oh, okay.
But nothing feels better than for me, after making over 100 decisions in a morning, to be told what to do.
Okay, so I actually do relate to this because I'm also a classic sub, and that is also why, because of the same reason. I live alone. I feel like there's always so much pressure on me constantly. And so when it comes to dating, really, really want the man to take the lead and to make some of the decisions so that I can relax. And yes, in the bedroom as well. So I guess maybe I am a bit psychological when it comes to my kink.
Yeah. You know, all of this really is about how our nervous system is wired for safety.
Oh, yeah.
And then when safety and that exhale occurs, we're in our rest and digest in our parasympathetic nervous system. And that's when we're able to receive. And so, again, for like the psychological kink, speaking just from my own experience, like there's just nothing better than to be able to just hang my hat up for the day, my thinking hat, and to just have someone make all the choices for me for a little while. And then if I decide, okay, that was really fun and my nervous system feels really great, thanks. Like now I want to switch and things I want and how I'd like to explore for like the next 2 hours or something, then that's fun. I like switching back and forth
For the
between
next 2 hours.
yeah, for the next
Love
2 hours.
it. Go you.
Which I think
Okay.
actually could be a good segue into the last one with shapeshifter. Jaya actually has a theory, and I think it's one that I definitely agree with, is that we come in as these sensory beings just with this kind of tabula rasa. It's a Latin term for like a blank canvas, right? And we have this, like our survival actually depends on our ability to perceive our environments and sensation to our bodies, like what feels good, what feels safe, what doesn't feel good, what, like all of that. Like that's how we're neurologically wired. The shapeshifter has the ability to play in all of these realms, express in all of these realms, embodies all of the blueprints, and can move and weave through all of this with ease. So the next 2 hours, when I said, oh, in the next 2 hours, I'd like to do this, the shapeshifter is someone, because they have this capacity to express in all of the spaces, could spend 6 hours, let's say, just receiving and giving. And they might want all of it all at once. They might want maybe, let's say, the energetic, like breathing on their vulva as a form of touch.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, they might want the chain on their sternum, which would represent like the sensate kink. And then the ambiance, like maybe is absolutely gorgeous. Like, and the sheets are silk, and there's a flogger that is being caressed up and down their leg. And all of this is happening, like all
That's
of
a
the
lot.
and they're in absolute ecstatic bliss. Like all of the sensation all at once is like, yes, keep going. Let's keep going. This feels amazing. The shadow can be, I think I'm just too much. Like I think what I want is going to be too overwhelming for
I was
anyone.
just thinking that if you do have this much of a hunger, would there be a danger or a risk that you might find it very hard to feel fulfilled if you're really craving so much?
Depending on who your friends are, maybe not.
Okay.
Like you might say, like, for my birthday or on Friday night, I would love to receive just this kind of sensation in my body. Would you be a yes to that? And it doesn't necessarily have to be like an orgy or sex, but
What
like
was
I
that?
feel this, and this simultaneously. Can we explore that?
Mhm.
And I would say the greater danger to being the shapeshifter is that because you're able to play so easily in all the realms, that you might be in a relationship dynamic with someone who is dominant sexual, let's say. And that's one pathway to pleasure. That's a dynamic that you're like, okay, I'll jump over and hang out in the sex playground and realm and get naked, and we'll watch porn, and we'll do that. We'll express in that way. And then there's all these other aspects of the shapeshifter that's like hungry, like, oh, but I want to slow down, and I want the anticipation, and I want the sensuality, and I want the psychological kink, and I want the sensate kink. Like, I want all of that, but my sexual partner is like not so interested in any of that. So there's a sense of starving that you can, like, the shapeshifter can feel like I'm too much, and I'm also kind of a little bored just doing this one thing.
And so you're saying it's a matter of using your voice to make sure that you're fulfilled as a shapeshifter.
I think that's the power, is to say, like, hey, listen, I know that this is like, I'm currently like really a dominant psychological kink and in the stage of transformation. And what that means is, this is what I'd like. I would like you to incorporate a little bit of this in tonight, please. Like, this is
so
fun. So
beautiful.
it's about using your voice and articulating. It gives you, I would say, what's even more important than identifying with a specific blueprint and stage is identifying what you want and then articulating it.
And that's one reason that I became interested in this, because after I get all of this off the ground with my business, I'm really interested in sex coaching. I'm very passionate about open communication, secure attachment, and I see this as a way that couples can become closer, learn how to communicate about sensitive topics, learn how to communicate about things that maybe they don't always talk about, which I think is something that drives a wedge between couples. So I think that also, for that matter, if this is something that interests you and you are in relationship, that it would behoove you, or that it would definitely make most sense if both people in the relationship, or all people in the relationship, were on board with learning about this, right?
Well, yeah, but we also say with the blueprints that one person in the relationship can change the whole dynamic.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
It could be, it could be a pain point for sure if the other individual doesn't have willingness.
Yeah.
They don't have a willingness to explore what maybe you're dedicating your time to learning. And if the willingness isn't there, that can be an issue. But if they're like, that's fantastic, you're dedicating some time to this and you're invested in what's erotically possible for us and nurturing our connection, bring it back to me along with the coach, and I'm a yes to it, and I'm on board to play and to do the embodiment practices and stuff, then that can work. Absolutely.
What is an embodiment practice, Gal?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that I would love to lead you through the different styles of touch through the blueprints, and we can do that as an embodiment practice.
Okay.
How about that?
Hey, everybody, I'm going to cut in right here. At this point, Gal led me through a short and sweet body mapping practice where she invited me to touch different areas of my upper body, but also led by my intuition about what would be most pleasurable. I absolutely loved it. And this is the discussion that we had after.
And I would say what is valuable about what we're doing, we're going to call it body mapping. You nodded as you're familiar with that term, right? And so I introduced to you just a few of the different touches that are associated with each of the blueprints. We had the off-body touch, the energetic, the massage, like the sensual, like contouring, which was interesting. It was so beautiful to watch how you were in relationship with your body. Although I was giving instruction, you listened to how your body wanted to be touched. So I said to give your like neck a massage, and there was stillness. I told you to bring your hands to your neck, and you did this constriction. You're in a beautiful dialogue with your body, and that's very apparent. This is really an embodiment practice that helps you map where your body is responding to stimulation, what kind of stimulation it likes, and what it doesn't like. And both are equally important, right? So it once again, it becomes more like a sensory lab where it's not like, oh, I'm fucking this up, I'm doing something wrong, my person doesn't like the way I'm touching them, or I don't like the way my person's touching me. The more you can identify, or the more you're mapping on yourself, the more you're mapping them, the more you're in a space of curiosity and exploration, is the game changer. It dissolves harmful, shameful narratives and provides a whole opportunity for erotic exploration.
I'm on fire right now. I think a couple things are coming up for me. First of all, I am someone who's, yes, in tune with this because of how I live, because of the things I've studied, because of spiritual journeys that I've been on. And I think I'm feeling emotional because I just realize how much it brings to my life and every day. And also that I feel like a lot of people aren't in tune. I'm kind of on a mission to bring this to obviously an audience, but also, yeah, I guess there is some sadness coming up for me because I also work with women who would have no idea if you ask them where they want to be touched, what they would even say. And so I really encourage everybody to look into this work and learn about yourself. I mean, the second thing that comes up for me is it's a little later here in Denver, and so I'll be going to bed. And I'm body mapping when I get under my covers tonight. I don't really feel like I've done that in a while on my own, and I've got some ideas of what I'm going to do self-pleasure wise in an hour or two.
I so celebrate that. A very influential mentor of mine that I met out of California, Eva Clay. I remember her sharing with me the importance and like how deliberate and radical it is that when you least kind of desire pleasure and bringing and inviting that into your life, because whatever, it could be life circumstances, it could be stress, it could be heartache, it could be illness, it could be a number of things that sever us from our birthright of pleasure, that's when it's actually most instrumental. It's so important.
First of all, I want to go back to what Gal said. Pleasure is our birthright. I really want everybody to hear those words and to take that on. And the second thing goes directly to what you just said about being intentional about pleasure and incorporating these things. And that is something else that I'm really on a mission to enlighten people about, and that is that our pleasure is our responsibility. And so we need to learn about what that means to us, how we can create that in our lives, how we can communicate that to our partners. It's an inside job. And that's another thing that is really beautiful about the erotic blueprints and learning about yours and not expecting someone else to do it for you.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And again, it's about an invitation to really cultivate a relationship with yourself, which, in my opinion, I think it's radical and I think it's significant. I think it is a sacred pilgrimage to get to know yourself and cultivate a relationship with yourself, your body, your sexuality, your expression. Let it be artistic, let it be authentic. And please don't forget to have fun along the way.
All right, let's wrap it up with those words. I mean, yes, it has been a long day for me, but I feel like I just had a few espresso shots. I'm really fired up about this. Thank you so much for the work that you are doing. I think let's keep this relationship going. Let's think of some other episodes we can do. Everybody, please go to the show notes. I'm going to be linking the hell out of those show notes. Make sure you find Gal. Make sure you can connect with me. Make sure you can take the Erotic Blueprint quizzes. Learn about yourself.
And just know that
Fuck
you
it
can't
up.
fuck it up. You just can't. One of my instructors says the most ideal client we can ever have is someone who's curious and willing. It's beautiful. I would say you asked me earlier, like what my job titles would be or what my mission is really to offer a decolonized sex education.
Thank you. And I think it'll make for a happier global community. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being my first official guest on Sex and the Solo Girl. I can't wait to continue this connection. This was a better conversation than I could have even imagined. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to Steve for introducing us.
Yeah,
and
thanks.
I will see everyone next time. If you have a question that you'd like me to answer on the show, send it to me, DM, email me, and to everyone who's continued to follow me on the new podcast, I really appreciate you, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Sex and the Solo Girl with Janice Formicella, the podcast for those who want to add more flavor to their relationships with themselves and others. If you liked today's episode, make sure to head over to Instagram and let her know. See you next week.